LEOGlossary and INLEO. Just talking about new things that are happening and what's going on with the UI and the UX and everything else. So, good evening at task. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Haven't been on a lot lately. Have some life issues cropping up, but that's okay. I'm here.
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still get stuff done. It's just I'm not getting done to the degree that I like. And I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, rough right now because AI is moving in such a way that it really makes me wonder where things are going to be in a year or two, and how how this is all going to play out, because I think it's a major shift in the world of, well, in the world of media in general, but certainly in the world of content creation, which I guess is media, but that also includes, we'll just say, the non-pros. So I think there's just a lot of transition going on, and not quite sure where everything's going, but
I
it's,
mean, I feel like I see something new with AI pop up just about every day. Like I do, surfing on the
yeah.
traffic exchanges where there's like some new kind of program with AI, either copywriting or, you know, images or this or that. It's like, wow, it's
I mean,
going crazy.
Chat GPT. I wrote an article about it before this show. Uh, Chat GPT 4.0, not zero O, or 4.0, not the letter O, lowercase letter O. Now they did a video release earlier today, and just go onto YouTube and enter OpenAI and find their account, and it's there. Or a lot of people posted the video itself, or go to my Taskmaster 4450 LE, and I embedded the video in my latest blog post. It's about 20 minutes, and it'll absolutely blow your mind. It's We are certainly moving towards a world where there will be personal AI assistants. Let's just put it that way. And I mean, this thing, they were able to converse in different languages in real time. Uh, the Unless, I mean, I have to caveat, unless this stuff was staged, which it's not likely. I mean, I guess it's possible, but if it was
Anything.
staged, that would really kill the reputation of OpenAI. But somebody wrote on a piece of paper, and it was able to read a mathematical equation off a piece of paper and help the person work through it, just like a teacher would help a student.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, it's just amazing. It was able to change the empathy. It was able to read the emotion of somebody based upon their tonality. Uh, it's starting to get spatial. So there's just a lot going on that it really is mind blowing. And I watched a video earlier today, and it just reaffirmed what I had seen before. And Moore's law, which basically, according to many, we've operated in the digital world under for the last, I don't know, 50, 60 years, which basically says that the the processing power, I mean, it's really the number of transistors they can fit on a chip doubles every 18 to 24 months. But another way of looking at it is essentially your cost per performance halves every 2 years, 18 months to 2 years. Let's just go with 2 years to be safe. So over the course of a decade, that would be a 30x um, output. They are estimating AI is moving at 100x per year. So this is the magnitude of the speed that we're seeing things advance. And I even wrote in my article, this is a big step forward to this personal AI. And oh, by the way, I would not expect this to be the last announcement in the next 3 months or so. I would expect the other companies to have something similar within the next couple months. So look for something from Google, look for something from Anthropic, look for something from Meta, look for something from Grok. I mean, they'll all be in on this stuff, and that's pretty amazing where things are going. So this is really a lot of where my focus has been because it's if you read my nightly post on Leo, a lot of what I've written about over the last year or so deals with Hollywood, deals with entertainment, deals with television, and this is just fascinating to me because we're watching the total disruption of an industry, a major industry, a long-standing industry, before our eyes. I mean, just complete and utter disruption. And it's only going to get worse or better, depending on which side you're looking
Right.
at, from, but worse for the established industry due to these new tools, due to fragmentation. The same way the internet broke the monopoly on distribution, which the major media companies had, and YouTube came along and anybody could distribute video content. Now, the quality of the video content obviously was not that of the major media companies, and that was the difference. But they lost the distribution. Well, now with these tools, my expectation is within a few years, you're going to have some person with a laptop in who the hell knows where in this software creating feature length films that are the quality of Warner Brothers and all these major entities. So, and they'll do it all with AI and everything from the writing of the script to the videos, text to video, and all of that will be, I mean, it'll be prompting. You will be writing, you will create video simply through prompting. And that really is been bouncing around my head. In fact, I'm going to be putting an article together in the morning how I've evolved my thinking with the Hive account that it's not really a business. I mean, it is. It's not only a business, but you're actually a media company. And I'm going to go through how essentially with these tools and with what is already available on Hive, we're media companies, each and every one of us.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's creators are going to be dead. It's going to be you're a media company, and you will have the distribution channel, which of course we can see pretty clearly. You can post on ThreeSpeak, you can post on YouTube, you can post on Rumble, you can post on a lot of other things. You can cross promote that. You can threads and whatnot, but you're also going to have the tools to start creating some more advanced stuff uh, and we're already doing it. I've been doing it with AI images on posting them on Leo um,
For a
for a number of
while
months
now.
now, and I mean it's just a way that these tools can create some pretty realistic stuff, and they're only getting better. And I mean, is creating an image any big deal and posting it as a thread with a poll? No, that's not really a big deal, but that's where we stand today, and that's where that technology stands. And there's others like OpenAI Sora, which I don't think has been released to the public. I mean, they say this thing is from the videos I've seen. This thing is amazing, and they have Hollywood professionals using it, and they're saying so this can be applicable to them. They're getting it trained, so it's good for them. I think that's horseshit. I think they're having the Hollywood professionals train it so they can sell it to everybody else.
Well, one of the other things I saw too is there's a website where you can sell your prompts, create AI prompts and sell them.
That's interesting. I have not seen that, but yeah, that's very interesting. And I mean, it's just it's pretty amazing. And where this is going is I don't think people. Not I don't think. I know people are not able to look at this in a way that they understand and the way it's unfolding because people quite simply we are not wired naturally to think in exponentials. uh, we think linearly, and this is what makes it so difficult. In fact, it's funny, I had a conversation with a buddy of mine earlier today. He's an ex-CPA, and we were talking about how people aren't taught about finance and money in school. And he's a boomer, so he's half ignorant because he's a boomer. Um, he he, uh, he had a valid point. He's like, and being a CPA, he of course understood, but he's like, these people don't understand. I said, well, they don't have any excuse in my opinion. It's all over the internet, and he waffled on back and forth, but he hit the nail on the head. What people don't realize is, even spending money on a Big Mac or whatever, people don't realize what that money would be worth over 20 or 30 years because they don't naturally understand compounding. It's something that, and if you look at a compounding chart, it's like the first 10 years are like watching your fingernails grow. I mean, nothing happens. It's slower than dirt. Your account doesn't go very far. But then you look at the second 10 years and it's like, well, that's pretty impressive. Then you look at the third 10 years, and by 30 years, I mean, it's just incredible. Well, that's an exponential. That's what compounding is. Except we're not talking about, a 5% annual growth rate with this AI stuff. We're talking, well, like I said before, I mean, you're talking about 100x. And that 100x is what they are attributing to just compute. And even if that's off, even if it's only 10x, okay, 10x in a year, that's a huge improvement in just compute. And they're not even taking into account the different chip designs and the impact that's making. They're not taking into the different architecture or software architecture that some of these are taking and doing, and then they're not taking into account the specialization. They're just talking the LLMs, but when you take an LLM and strip it down and get rid of all the excess stuff and focus it on, I don't know, legal, let's say, or something like that, or you focus it on your business's data, that becomes a hugely powerful tool. And suddenly you're looking at growth rates that are a lot more than 5%. And now you exponentially move that over 10 years. And it's like, that's why I say anybody who says they can project these things out past 10 years from now, I think they're full of crap because I've looked at it and I'll give you 10, but we don't know what compute will really look like in 10 years. We don't know what energy will look like in 10 years in terms of the amount available. We don't know what software stack and software architecture will look like. I mean, it's impossible to guess. We don't know where the material sciences are going, so who the hell knows what we're going to be making stuff out of? Uh, I mean, it just gets to the point where um, it's not something that our brains can really fathom easily,
No,
easily. And I bear in mind, I've been watching this technology and the pace of technology for damn near 25 years now. So I mean, I'm schooled in S curves and exponential curves. I've developed some of my own methodologies for tracking the pace of certain technologies. So this is not something where I just fell off the turnip truck and it's like, oh wow, technology, this is neat. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time and trying to grasp the pace of some of this stuff. It's really astounding, and then to see what some people, especially in Web3, are focused upon. I mean, that's where I just piss people off, and it's like you're a freaking moron. It's like, I mean, shut up. You're foolish. It's like you're talking nonsense. I mean, it's like you're worried about somebody with a straw and a spitball, and what's coming down the pike is somebody with a howitzer. And I'm not talking necessarily destruction because I'm not in the camp that AI is going to be destructive. Obviously there's nefarious people who do nefarious things, but I'm just using that as a contrast. Um, you're worried about and making a big deal about a pea shooter, and it's like that's nothing. So this is where I try to structure my attention regarding Web3 on the bigger picture, because that's where the change comes in, and trying to figure out where all this is going is essential. And obviously nobody really truly has the answer, but we're gaining a little bit of insight here and there.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like they just canceled one of the shows that I watched because it's too expensive to film in Hawaii. Why couldn't they just do something with AI? I mean, they could create a Hawaii background and just like put them on the background, but they don't want
Well,
to do
I
stuff.
mean, it's a lot. I mean, you're going after the nature of disruption, and you have to understand why companies and therefore industries get disrupted, and why it almost always is exclusively from the outside. And it's not typically, people think of disruption, it's like, well, the executives at Kodak must have been freaking idiots, that's why they lost their business, or the people at Blockbuster must have been idiots. um, and while that could be the case in some instances, and probably is in some instances, that's not the case in all instances, if not most instances. The reason why major companies get disrupted and they're basically powerless to do anything about it is because they end up getting to the point where stakeholder interest, stakeholder, not shareholder,
Mhm.
stakeholder interest is misaligned. Different entities within an organization have different interests that they protect. So when you have, for example, um, let's take Hollywood. Obviously, the executives are going to have a different view of things than the actors union, who may or may not have a different view of things with the writers union, who may or may not have a different view of things of the CGI people, and the graphic designers have another interest, and the shareholders have another interest, and the within the executives they have different interests depending on what they came up in and what department and what background. You could have a need for change, and yet you have some executive who's in a high ranking position who's 18 months from retirement and says, let's not disrupt, let's not ruffle any feathers. I want calm for the next 18 months. So you get a lot of things like that come into play. And ultimately, this is where something like Sora, to me, it's like, yeah, this is why Hollywood's dead. Because you with the right prompting skills, you with the right creative skills, you with the right technology could create a show like that, base it in Hawaii without ever leaving your PC. And if you have the proper distribution channel, you could post that and design your own show. And one of the problems I think Hollywood has is Hollywood killed, and I get some pushback when I say this. I had one person who replied in one of my posts with this, and he listed some, like Chris Hemsworth, the guy who played Thor. Is that his name, Hemsworth?
Yeah. Um,
Okay. And he listed three or four other people, and I'm like, the only one I know is Chris Hemsworth. That's not a movie star if I don't even know their damn name. And in the Western world, you mentioned the name Tom Cruise, you mentioned Denzel Washington, you mentioned movie stars. They know who the hell they are. And when you look at the movie stars, uh, just going back here recently, Sean Connery died a number of years ago. Harrison Ford over 80. Stallone and Schwarzenegger in their late 70s. They're action stars. Liam Neeson is 70 or 71. He's a borderline movie star. George Clooney is in his 60s. Denzel
yeah.
Washington's in his 60s. Kevin Costner's near 70. Bruce Willis is now retired due to his condition, but he's 70. You notice a trend here. There's no young people. Tom Cruise is in his 60s. Eddie Murphy, I mean, I don't know if you consider him a movie star anymore, but he was hot for a while in comedy. He's in his 60s. It's like, where are the younger people? Where are the younger stars? Well, Hollywood killed that because they didn't want that. And that's a problem because millions of people will turn out, and this is why a guy like Denzel Washington gets the money he does. They'll turn out for Denzel. Oh, did you see there's a new Denzel Washington film out? No. Okay, let's go see it. What's it about? Who cares? It's Denzel Washington. You don't care what the critics say. It's Denzel. It's going to be a good film because most of his stuff is good film. And yeah, I mean everybody has their duds, so once in a while you're disappointed, but you're not going to do that for the rest of these clowns. So the point I'm making is this leads right into this idea of AI and AI stars and AI experts. I mean, there's already been AI generated pop stars who, they have AI music with it and they,
That's
become,
crazy.
they get a following on social media and it's a pop star. And I mean, I don't know if the AI pop stars have done concerts yet, but I guarantee you they will because Roy Orbison, who's been dead for like 30 years, did a concert a couple years ago. They did a hologram of Ray Orbison and him singing his songs. So that's not too far down the path.
Well,
And
look
maybe
what they
it's
did
a
with
hologram.
Natalie Cole and her father, and that was like,
Well,
God.
yeah, that was a big deal when they blended them into the same song, and they kind of cross mixed them singing together. Um, but this is you know orders of magnitude bigger, and
Mm.
so who the hell needs that? And who the hell needs Warner Brothers? Who the hell needs MGM? If you have the capability and you could create the show that you like or one similar, let's say, who cares where it comes from? And again, you may not have the reach of, let's say, the show reach millions of people. You may only reach hundreds of people or thousands of people with your show. But what if there's tens of thousands of shows being produced in the same manner by people all over the world, where you have the fragmentation where, okay, maybe I don't watch your show, but I watch somebody else's computer generated AI show. But guess what that's doing? That's keeping me away from MGM stuff or Netflix stuff or Warner Brothers.
Paramount or
Yeah, it's keep me away from all of them. And that's why I say all of us are going to be media companies because all of these tools will be available. It's just a matter of where do we find the audience? And if we go a step further and we say, okay, if we base this on the network state idea, the audience is on Hive. The audience is on whatever network your community you belong to. And again, you may not reach millions of people, but you could reach hundreds or even thousands. And you take that across the entire spectrum. How does an MGM, how does a, well, that's Amazon now, but how does a Warner Brothers, how do these major entities compete on their content? I don't think they do. And I think this is something that I'm going to watch because it's going to, I think this is going to play out over the next couple of years in these sports contracts because these sports contracts are going up in value. They're getting bid up, even though some of the leagues are having a decrease in the ratings. But my theory is these entities are going after sports because sports are going to continue to pull in the advertising dollars because they cannot be replaced by CGI. They cannot be replaced by AI. You cannot take a baseball game, an NFL game, and create that on a computer. I mean, you could.
No.
You can create your own AI computer NFL. You can't use NFL, but football league, American Football League, but it's not the NFL. So I think in that regard, anything live is still going to have value. But any of this other stuff that we're looking at, um, not that it won't have value, it's just it won't have that scarcity and it'll be distributed and fragmented so much that people will get it everywhere. It's kind of like reading. It's the news. The cable news channels are down tremendously from where they were. Why? Because who the hell needs a cable news channel? You can go on YouTube and you can find a dozen people on either side of the political equation who are doing their own ad hoc political commentary, much like
Mhm.
in the same way as like a Chris Matthews or a Rachel Maddow or a Sean Hannity or anything like that. Just they're not on these major networks and it's kind of ad hoc and their opinions are just as valid as anybody else. I mean, you know, what background does Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow have to express enlightened opinions? They're just political hacks themselves. So you could do that. You could see these people on, doing these little shows similar to ESPN shows where they're talking sports. Are you going to see Stephen A. Smith or an ex NFL player on there? No, but um, hell, even some of those people have their own podcasts, so they're getting away or at least hedging in case they lose their jobs at these networks. Um, so again, I think you start to look at the distribution plus the creative content capability. And I think we're in a completely different world, and we're seeing it with entertainment. I think there's going to be a lot of other industries this affects. Uh, AI is going to really disrupt white collar stuff. But then you combine that with robotics, and you could over time see a lot of the blue collar stuff. I don't see that in the near term. But again, you go out 10 years, I'm not going to bet that we can't have a couple billion humanoid robots built in 10 years. Well, you had a couple billion humanoid robots, that's going to change a lot of the economic equation.
Yeah, I'd rather not be around to see any of that. People without work. Well, there's going to be different jobs associated with then that, I suppose. I mean, somebody's
Well,
going
we've already, if you look at the labor force participation rate from the St. Louis Fed, we peaked in 1998. And what that is, for those who don't know the stat, the labor force participation rate is there's two breakdowns, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think it's 15 to 64. And then there's a more narrow view, I think 25 to 54. Um, and what it is it's a percentage. So it doesn't matter the raw numbers. And it's the percentage of the people in those age brackets who are working. And of course, the 25 to 54 is always a higher number. That's always up somewhere around 80%. And that's kind of held constant, a few ebb and flows. But the larger reading is a lot lower. Now, that also stands to reason because A, not all of your young people are in the workforce, they're in school. Not all of your people, let's say from 54 to 65, are working. Some of them are retired. So there's a legitimate reason for this the wider uh, metric to be lower. But that metric, the 15 to 64 or 65, that peaked in 1998, and it's steadily gone down since. I mean, it's like any chart; it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, but it's a
Right.
downward trend. And every time there's a huge economic disruption, uh, the great financial crisis in 2008, COVID situation in 2020, you see a huge drop off, as you would in the workforce participation rate, because obviously unemployment goes up, people lose their job, and then after that, it recovers. But what's interesting is it never recovers at the level before the event. It's always a lower level. It goes back up a little bit, but it doesn't go back up as far as it was before. And my theory is the last 25 years, which 1998 was 26 years ago, have been the greatest period of technological advancement in human history. Of course, it will probably be usurped in the next 10 years, maybe even the next five, compared to what we've seen in the last 25. So while there's the contingencies that says technology has always created more jobs than it destroyed, I say not according to this data. If I'm reading this data correctly, no. That may have been true way in the past, but it hasn't been true the last quarter century. And the pace these things are going at, you're going to see jobs. I mean, you're looking at. I mean, remember way back when, like 7 months ago, when people said, "Oh, well, to protect yourself from AI, learn how to code." Well, now we're seeing these chatbots bring out code, and these chatbots are becoming software engineers. So even coders are looking like they're screwed, and that's where, yeah, there will be some jobs, but I just think the pace of this stuff is going where it's going to be to the point where society isn't prepared for what's going to hit. Because I mean, this Chat GPT 4, oh, it just basically, again, if this wasn't a ruse and the technology actually does that, anybody who works in translation is now done. History. Because this is a free app. That's the other thing that they're doing. This isn't going to be their paid service. This is available for free, or will be
Wow.
available for free. So anybody who's in the translation business, you are just put out of business unless you're translating some ancient language that isn't spoken anymore. So you work in archaeology or something, or you just you speak some arcane language that it's not one of the main ones. But if you're a Japanese or Mandarin Chinese or Spanish or an Italian translator, forget it. You're done. Um, I mean, that's just one example. You have a piece of software that all of a sudden shows up one day and just makes the entire field of translation obsolete. Now, I don't know what happens if you take a text document and stick it in there. Will it translate it accurately? I have no idea, but I would hypothesize that even if it doesn't do it exact right now, give it another year and it'll be damn near. It'll be probably better than the human translator and make less errors on a document. Uh, I mean, that's just one example. I mean, the ability to converse, again, if this is an accurate representation of what is possible, this just destroyed every customer service center, or most customer service centers there are. I mean, it's just when you watch this video, it's amazing. It's like, holy crap, we don't need all these customer service centers.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't even want to do those jobs anymore, as evidenced by when we call somewhere and it's like the wait times have increased. You'll be on.
Well, yeah, that and the companies don't want to pay people for it. They don't. People don't want to do it. It certainly. I mean, this is what you see in the robotics. The robotics. The talk is they're going after and the first jobs that they're going to be replacing are the ones that are dirty, the ones that are dangerous, and the ones that are dreary or boring. And that's what the robots will replace. And okay, I can accept that. And I would certainly say that working in a call center is dreary for the most part. You get people bitching at you, complaining, and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're pissed off the cable's out, or they're pissed off that their phone bill was raised, or whatever. So, that I understand. But now you have the ability to replace that. And while it's not the greatest work in the world, it does employ tens of millions of people around the world. And now you're looking at, again, this same piece of software could instantly be putting them out of business because somebody could take that and integrate it into their system, train it on or contour it to their information, and you could create an AI agent that now handles is your call center. And so now you just have a bunch of phone lines coming into a computer, and the computer answers all the questions and handles all the calls, or at least
Because
like 85 or 90% of them.
they don't have to provide health insurance, then they're, no, they don't, the robots don't get sick. They might have trouble, you know, technical troubles here and there, but there's so much that the company won't have to take
Oh, yeah.
care of.
Oh yeah, people are a pain in the ass. We call in sick. We sexually harass each other. We get rude. We're lazy. We're coming hungover. We want time off. We want to go home at the end of the day. We don't want to work more than 8 hours. We're sleepy. The baby kept us up all night. The wife or the husband's yelling at me. All kinds of crap going on. With robots, it's like and software. I mean, robots. They're figuring they'll work like 7,000 hours a year is the estimate on some of these robots versus 2,000 hours, roughly 2,200 by a human in the West, or at least in the United States. Then you get into something like these call centers. You don't even have to charge a damn robot, so you can run this software 24/7, and it's like get rid of all these people, and then you get rid of a whole bunch of auxiliary stuff. You don't need their managers. You don't need to have the coffee service. You don't need the rent on the building. You don't need the phone lines. You don't need phones. You don't need headsets. You don't need the water cooler or the coffee service. You don't need the HR department. You don't need payroll department. You don't need any of this. It's like, okay, here it is. And odds are companies will set this up for other companies, and it's like, just pay us a fee. We set it up. Here's the agent, and you pay a fee, and it's like 80, 90% less than you're spending now. It's like, okay. And you get rid of, thousands of people.
Yeah, no drama, no.
No, it's we are going to see due to AI, in my opinion, AI and robotics. We're going to see tremendous, tremendous productivity gains, and the ability to increase output is going to be truly exponential. Um, and we kind of see that. I mean, just if you've played with any of these chatbots, like Grok with a Q, which is the fastest chatbot out there, and you type in a prompt and you get an answer in nanoseconds. It runs at 800 tokens, 900 tokens per second, and just think of how quickly that content is. And I'll be honest, I've never really prompted to the point of, write me an article about, well, Grok that one may be a bad example because it's not up to date. I don't think. Maybe Llama 3 is up to date. I don't know if they're real time. But I know Elon Musk Grok, which you get if you have his membership, his Twitter membership. Um, that's supposedly real time. That's connected to the internet. So I've never never like prompted, write me an article about Apple's earnings call last night. Um, and include the numbers, include the a couple comments from the CEO, include a couple comments from the CFO, and include guidance. But if you did that and you had something that had access to real time, that would take me, I don't know, if I had to think about, let's say, 30 seconds to prompt it. And you get that back, you suddenly have a piece of content in, you get it back in a second and a half, maybe at most, maybe even a second. You got a full article. So this is the idea of output. If you just take that and expand it to most sectors, what's going to happen? How many calls can a automated robot handle in 24 hours? An automated, customer service department. How many calls can they handle in 24 hours? Um, Unlimited. I mean, you're only limited by the number of lines because you keep adding more lines, they'll keep answering. It's a piece of software. You add more lines, you don't need to add more people. You just add another 10 lines and it'll handle 10 more calls at the same time. Um, so this is what we're looking at. And I mean, now it just, that's why I say trying to figure all this out and how it applies to blockchain and crypto and ownership and staking. And I think that's a lot of our defense is you better have some stuff staked in Web3 because your income, your income capital is potentially going away, um, depending on what you're doing. I mean, if you're a plumber, you're probably okay for a while. But if you work in a call center, after what I saw earlier tonight, I would not say that you have 3 to 5 years at your present job, especially if you work for a big company that, okay, if you're answering the phone for a plumbing company, local plumbing company, maybe not a problem. But you work for a big call center, you may find that a piece of software replaces your ass in the next couple of years. And that's where I think we're going.
So potentially, I mean, a person, a regular person could get hold of the software and create their own call center.
yeah, you could. I mean, it certainly would be plausible. I mean, you, you probably, and again, we'll have to see what other technology, what other companies do. But yeah, just like we were talking about with the feature length films, at some point, I think anybody will be able to, with a little bit of expertise, will be able to create feature length films using just a laptop. Uh, but yeah, I would think that you could do this and set up your own call center. But what's the point? Because if you can do it, so can Ford, so can Walmart, so can Amazon, so can Target. And they have the resources to and the expense to do it where they're already paying the money. They'll just get their IT people or somebody just to write the software and say, create an AI agent for us, feed our own data in, train it on our data, and give us a fully functioning AI agent, and they just run it through their own system. But it's there's so much happening that, yeah, I mean, this is the opportunity for people. There's so much potentiality because if it's available to anybody, it's available to everybody. And that means somebody who is on the ball can just take it and create what they need. Now, is it something that can be monetized in terms of business opportunity? Depends on what's going to be out there. I mean, I would say call centers are going away, so setting up your own call center as a service probably isn't a very good idea. Um, but you create feature length films, or you create a quote television series or some type of television type series
Mhm.
episodes, and you have a quality storytelling and a story that people like, that could be something you monetize. Um, just like many people have monetized, like self-publishing their own books. They're not going through Random House. They're not selling millions and millions of books. They're not going on book tours and book signing tours and all that. But they, self-publish a book through Amazon or whatever and sell, some books here and there, and maybe become moderately successful at it. It's just, this is an evolution of it, but it's so much further down the road and so much more powerful. It's really mind blowing, and to me, it's also leading into this whole idea of the AI personal assistant, where we each have somebody, something who handles all different types of tasks for us, reminds us of a doctor's appointment, or schedules a doctor's appointment, or orders our food, orders our
Bookless
groceries.
travel.
Yeah, books to travel, balances our checks, pays the electric bill, um, things of that nature. Knows our schedule. Probably be tied. You tie your AI agent to your car, and so the car knows at 10 o'clock you've got to be at the dentist. So it just, you get in the car and it takes you to the dentist because it knows your schedule. I mean, these are all things that I kind of see as part of the future.
It's all like Terminator stuff and Total Recall and
Well, I that's what Hollywood likes to espouse, and I think that scares the shit out of people because that's all Hollywood espouses.
uh-huh.
The media. The problem with the media is they still live by the old adage: "If it bleeds, it leads." The old
Mhm.
newspaper adage or newscast adage, and uh, I mean, I guess there's a possibility of the Terminator scenario, but I see this in the opposite direction. I mean, there's, people say, well, Skynet. Well, who the fuck is Skynet? Is it OpenAI? Is it Elon and Grok and all he's building? Is it Google? Is it Zuckerberg and Facebook? Is it the Chinese? I mean, who's Skynet? It's Skynet was built by one company that went out of control. Here, it's like every time somebody has something, like OpenAI wows everybody, it's like 3 weeks later, it's no big deal because somebody comes out with something better. And it's like, so you got this round robin of who's in the lead and who has the most impressive AI news of the week. And it keeps changing week by week by week. And, we're all waiting on Grok 1.5 was released by Elon, but he says Grok 2.0 is blowing everybody away. Well, of course, everybody's waiting for ChatGPT 5. Well, then you got Claude and all the money they got from Amazon, and they just brought out Claude 3, which blows everybody away. But I guarantee you, Claude 4 will be a lot better. And Google's been quiet for a while, so they're not sitting around. And oh, by the way, Apple's starting to rear their head, and who the hell knows what Apple's going to do? So, I mean, this is where you get to the point where it's like this idea of the doom and gloom. I don't see it. It's, yeah, jobs are going to be, because of the corporate structure. I mean, it's in companies' best interest to get rid of people, to get rid of the employees. That makes them a whole lot more profitable, a whole lot more productive. That's going to be a societal issue. How do we deal with that? But it's like all the technology we've developed up to this point. yeah, a lot of it has its downside. I mean, that's why there's going to be no utopia, but there's also not going to be a dystopia. I mean, email is has was a wonderful creation, was a boom to humanity, but spam was a pain in the ass. Spam was a negativity to email. So were phishing scams. So were Nigerian print scams. So there was a negative to email, but email was for a while a wonderful innovation. Well, what's beyond that? I mean, we move beyond it, and so there's always the positive. There's always the double edged sword of technology.
Oh yeah.
And people talk about, well, the internet and this and texting and mobile and phones, but nobody talks to each other anymore. Okay, well, that's a downside. But you know what? I've talked to most of you assholes. You people aren't that interested, so you're better off not talking to people because people are bastards. So I mean, it's these type of things that it's so easy to jump to the dystopia, and it's like, yeah, well, okay, there's going to be negatives, without a doubt. I don't trust Sam Altman and OpenAI as far as I could throw them. I mean, in fact, becoming convinced Altman replaced Zuckerberg as King douchebag, king of the evil empire. I think Zuckerberg moved down a level, or he stayed at his level, and Altman passed him. I mean, this guy is, I think, dangerous. But there and the idea of all of this in Megatech's hands, I don't like that idea either. They control it all. That's not a pleasant future either. So
Hmm.
this is where we still have to keep pushing to distribute and fragment stuff and break these things to pieces, just like we started with Hollywood. You know, break up Time Warner and Disney and these companies, strangle and get other content out there, and let them try to compete. And I don't think they will. I think they're just going to you know implode on themselves, and that's what's happened through history. That's called disruption. We're seeing it in automotive, in my opinion. I follow that. I think that's going to take place. Potentially, we could end up seeing that in finance if DeFi takes off. So there's a lot of major industries that could be in the crosshairs of major, major disruption in the next 5 to 10 years, to the point where the industry may be unrecognizable as to what it is today.
I didn't realize until this how I mean, yeah, I saw a lot of AI stuff, but the pace is it's just crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's people who watch it a lot closer than me and understand the technical side of things a lot more than I do. That's where a lot of this information's coming from. I'm parroting a lot of what they're saying. I mean, the 100x is not my calculation. That's other people's. And
Okay.
um, I mean, they see what's going on with the NVIDIA orders. They see what's going on with the software architecture and the design of stuff. They understand the software stack and things of that nature a lot more than I do, and they're also, in many instances, they have insight as to what comes out, what it takes to get something to the point it does. Where I see an upgrade, and I say, "Oh, that's cool." But they understood how big a breakthrough it took and how big a step it was. Even if it doesn't look all that impressive compared to what was before, they're sitting there saying, you don't realize how big this is because it solved this problem, that problem, this problem. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. Look kind of neat, but that's about it. It didn't wow me, but it wows these technical people because they understand, let's say in robotics, what you have to do and what you have to figure out with the actuators to get them to the point to be able to do that. It's like, that's really impressive. And I'm sitting there saying, well, okay, it's kind of neat, but still needs work, guys. And they're like, understand, because it can do that, it'll take these next 4 steps very quickly. And it's like, okay. But yeah, it's get ready to hang on because another 18 to 24 months. I mean, ChatGPT really was only open. ChatGPT 3 hit the market about 18 months ago. I mean, it feels like this stuff's been around forever. It was 18 months ago.
Wow.
Think about that. Most of us didn't even know what the hell prompting meant 18 months ago. We
I
didn't even know what it,
still I don't know
we,
how to do it very well.
well, it's,
But I haven't messed with it that much either.
it's just easy. You go to one of these chatbots and you just practice. You just type stuff in. You just design, if it's a picture, you tell what you want in the picture, and you try to describe the idea in your mind in words, and see what comes out. And I mean, that's the basics. There's a lot of other things to try to get code and whatnot, but I mean that's going to be a talent to have if you can query the software to get the results you want, whatever results they may be, whether it's a picture, whether it's a script, whether it's an article, whether it's information, feedback. And it seems like if this OpenAI video is anything, you're going to be able to do it just talking. You're not even going to need to type. You just talk it in.
Well,
I mean, just think. You can with your phone say, "Call grandma," if grandma's in your contacts. How would you like getting your car and just say, "Drive to grandma's," and it does.
and I'm taking a nap and you drive.
Yeah, it's that's where you're going. I mean, it's they're. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few years you start to see something like that. I don't know about the taking the nap part, but uh, I think these LLMs are going to be integrated into these cars, and you're
Well, what
going to
does
see
LLM stand for?
large language models.
Oh, okay.
That's what Grok is. That's what Llama 3 is. That's what uh, ChatGPT is. They're large language models, and then SLM is, I think, smaller language models, which then companies can take that and kind of cut out a little bit of the excess, narrow it down, and streamline it for their own stuff, for let's say legal or medical or something like that. You train it all on medical papers and whatnot. Um, so that's where things are going. And, this is why I keep always talking about Leo AI and the potentiality there. And, now I'm going to write the article in the morning about the media company. I mean, these are concepts I think people need to really start thinking about, because I don't think the world will be the same in 5 years. I don't think the world is the same as 5 years ago.
Not really, no. I mean,
I mean, COVID accelerated some things. Then you had LLMs, remote work, and this is just a fraction of what we're going to see. I mean, what I've seen this year in 2024 with robotics, and I'm far from a robotics expert. I admit that. So I keep a curiosity eye on things. Uh, but just from what I've seen in my non-expert viewpoint, it's amazing. I can't even fathom where we're going to be in another year and a half with these robotics. Uh, and that's just one piece of the puzzle. Uh, so it's the stuff I'm creating, the images I'm creating on and posting on threads blow me away. You told me a year ago I'd be creating stuff like that. It's like, no way. You're full of it. Um, and I mean, this is not doing some in-depth prompting. This is just some real basic stuff, and the software does some pretty good stuff that is high quality. And sometimes you can't even tell it's not a photograph. That's the difference. Now put that and tie it to whatever you want and creating whatever you want, and it can do it.
And some of those things you're creating look like paintings too. I mean, it's just
Yeah, some of it comes out paintings. There's different settings, so you can
mhm.
get different styles. And I prefer photo quality stuff. And yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't come out as crisp, and it does look a little more like a painting. And you know,
I still think they look good. I mean, wow.
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, we know cartoons and paintings and comic strips and all that stuff is also big media. So, uh, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong uh, with an image that isn't necessarily a photo replica. Something it looked like a photo. It looks like a painting. It looks like a drawing. I mean that's fine too.
I think my dad, he's 93, so the technological advances that he's seen over his 93 years, if he saw something like this AI stuff, he would just like be, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean that's the point. I mean, I'm old enough to remember life before a lot of this stuff, before the internet, before the personal computer, before in-home gaming, before cable television, before the mobile phone. Uh, so I have the ability to contrast and compare, and I've seen a lot more development in my 50 and change years than your dad did in his first 50 and change years
Oh yeah.
because technology accelerates. Now, from his top point of view, he saw a lot of things come around like television, like flight, the automobile, and so the entire industrial revolution. So these were, the space race. These were major innovations and necessary innovations. But it's like somebody born today, their next fit, the what they're going to see in the next 50 years and change is going to blow away what I've seen because hell, you may see that in the next 15. We may be talking in 20, what would that be? About 2040 if we're still here. And it's like, holy crap, remember what life was like in 2020? I mean, that was the damn Stone Age. I mean, that could be a real, in fact, based upon historical technical trends, that's a realistic outcome. Because I'll tell you what, there was not a person in the United States who paid attention who said in 2020, looking back, life hasn't changed much since 1980 because life changed a tremendous amount. In 1980, you didn't have copy machines in offices. You went to the video arcade. You didn't have in-game gaming. We had five TV channels. If you wanted to see a movie, you either went to the cinema or you waited for the Disney movie of the week. We didn't have VCRs and then later DVD players. Music was on either 8-track or records. There weren't even really cassettes at that point. A typewriter, you had to use carbon paper to get duplicates with copy machines and whiteout. Um, there was no internet. Mobile phone meant you had a long damn phone cord in the kitchen so mom could cook while talking on the phone, and you didn't have to be 3 feet from the wall. I mean, that was mobile phone. um, you
The
know,
remotes, I remember remote controls that had cords. Like
I remember the remote control in my house. It was me. Get up and change the channel. I also got the beer. And get while you're up, get me a beer. I wasn't up. Well, you are now. Go change the channel, put on channel 4, and go get me a beer. I mean, that was what it was. Um, we had one TV which was tied to the antenna on the roof, so we got good reception. Then the other TVs in the house had the rabbit ears, and you could kind of move it around depending on the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had a phone in our house that was when my grandmother moved in. She brought her phone with her. It was a rotary phone. Those were a pain in the ass. But when we moved into the house that I grew up in, the exchange was so small. I would call my friends. I only had to dial the last four numbers. I didn't have to dial the prefix. That changed very quickly, but I mean, it was to the first. It was like you just dialed the last four and went right to their. It was like it was an extension.
Right.
Um, these are things that people don't consider, and how much information cost, how slow it was, how unavailable it was. We didn't have personal computers, we didn't have in-home game systems, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have encyclopedias. You want to get something from the encyclopedia, you went to the library.
And had
Um,
to use the card catalog to.
yeah, card catalog in the Dewey Decimal System. Um, all of this changed. So by the year 2000, it wasn't full blown, but there were some mobile phones, there were copy machines, there were computers, personal computers in offices. Um, we had in-home gaming systems, Atari and Coleco and Nintendo and all of them. It was just a different to- technology changed a lot of things. In the last 20 years have been not really, other than the smartphone. We really didn't have the technological change at the societal level of the same impact. The next 20 years, 2040 to 2020 to 2040, it's going to be more like 1980 to 2000, except much further along. And I think we're seeing that with this AI stuff. Just as an example, I think we're seeing it with robots. I think we'll end up seeing it in transportation. We'll see it in energy. We're going to see it in a lot of different fields. Um, medical is going to change completely. Finance is going to change completely. So these industries, manufacturing due to robotics and AI, construction, 3D printing, all of this stuff is going to disrupt and change everything. So by 2040, it's like, how the hell did you do things back in 2015? I mean, that sounds weird.
Yeah,
No,
I'll be like 80 in 2040. Holy
I'll be 70. So yeah, I mean, again, it's that brings up the epitome of inequality, and the only inequality that matters is age right now. I mean, somebody who's 25 has the opportunity to live who knows to what age, who knows what they'll come up with in the next 50 years. You and I, unless they better figure something out real quick, because we don't have 50 years left. So that's the true inequality, is the younger generation could see their life expectancy pushed to 100, 110, 120, and live healthy. You know, we're still destined that, okay, you hit 65 and everything starts going to shit and breaking down, and you're aching and paining and hurting and living at the doctor, and this goes wrong and that goes wrong, and it gets worse. I mean, you know, the life cycle. They may avoid a lot of that.
shit. And on that note,
Well, it's that, as they say, the goal might be over the next 20 years. Don't drop dead. If you can live 20 years, you might get another 20. You never know. I mean, it's, again, we'll see where this goes over the next 5 to 7 years. But a lot of this AI stuff, that's the thing. People don't realize the tentacles and the areas it's going to drift into. And who knows what this is going to do in the health industry and the medical field, and and big pharma and medicines and genetic research and all this other stuff. We have no idea
Mm-mm.
what will be uncovered with this because, quite frankly, we've never seen something that takes the world's knowledge base and can condense it down in such a point where it can pull up and spit out the information in nanoseconds.
Yeah, we were at the bank this morning trying to open up an account for his sister's estate. And like the information that we had to get, like the bank had to call their main office and get a hold of legal to make sure that the letter that we had was the right kind of letter, which meant, they took a picture of it or whatever they did and sent it over and we got the answer. That kind of thing would have taken days before.
Yep, yep, that's true. It's people don't remember what it was like when you dealt with paper tax returns and when attorneys actually filed physical paperwork with the courts and the courts had to process physical paperwork and you went to the bank and you were dealing with paper and the bank sent you paper and you got financial documents, which a lot of financial documents because of regulation are still paper, which is stupid, but that's the way they do it. And to get information, it was like somebody had to go pull a file. And if it was older information, like in a law firm or an accounting firm, you had to go to file storage because, you only keep the active files on hand. You don't, once a case is closed, you put it in storage. So you have to go and dig through 6 or 8 or 10 years worth of files to try to find this one file. Think of all the hours that were spent with that. Think of all the hours with photography, taking a photograph, going and buying the film and spending money on the film, taking the photo, putting the film in the camera, taking the photographs, then going and taking the film back, getting it developed, then, having to throw out all the pictures that are blurry and of your thumb and of your toe and whatever. And then you have to go take the one set of pictures and you had to go to the post office and you had to go buy the special envelope to send the pictures to grandma because grandma, needed a picture of the grandkids on vacation. No, there was no Instagram. Now it's like the grandkids are on Instagram or Facebook in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, my nephew's wife posts, pictures of the kids in the Facebook stories all the time. So, you watch the kids grow up in Facebook stories.
Yeah,
I
we
got
didn't
to see
have
my little great nephew have his tooth pulled.
we didn't have that back in my day. There was no Facebook stories. So
Okay, well, this was a good talk. Not planned, but it turned out well.
yeah, we
Um,
went down a different path. So that's what's been on my mind. We'll see where things go. Like you said, every week there's new stuff with that. So with that AI stuff, if you investigate it, at least you never get bored because there's always something.
right. Okay, well, thank you for showing up, and we will see you all again next week. Have a good night.
Ciao.